Good morning. Thank you so much for joining the Callison webinar, Sustainable Retail Design, Green is the New Black webinar this morning. I am Michelle Gomez with Callison Marketing, and I do want to introduce our speaker today, Amber. As a director in Callison's LA office, Amber develops and oversees all sustainable projects and strategy for our Los Angeles, Dallas, Scottsdale, and New York offices. She has over 16 years experience in the field, including interior design, historic preservation, and urban and environmental planning for large and small scale projects. Amber's projects include sustainable design for retail spaces, such as the award-winning AT&T Michigan Avenue flagship and major retail centers, including City Creek Center in Utah, and the Red Street Asterium in Jordan. Amber is known for her thought leadership on sustainable design, and she currently serves as Education Committee Co-Chair of the USGBC Los Angeles chapter. She educates colleagues, city officials, and universities on LEED certification, case studies, and sustainable urban planning concepts. She also took part in the development of the Matrix by Callison, our sustainable design tool that analyzes top performance strategies for retail and commercial projects. In January, the ENR recognized Amber as one of 20 under 40 rising design professionals in California for her industry leadership and community service. And without taking any further time, I am going to go ahead and pass the controls over to Amber so she can get started on her presentation. When Amber is finished, please feel free to type in questions into your chat box, and we'll get those in front of Amber and get them answered as soon as possible. Amber, do you want to take it away from here?
Sure. Thanks so much, Michelle. Thank you all for joining this morning. I hope that, or this afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. This morning's talk is about green is the new black, what we're seeing in retail design. Feel free to ask questions in the chat function throughout the presentation, and if there's something relevant to the slide that we're on, we can talk about that. The questions are a good thing. There's also time at the end for those. So with that, I will start. So the first question is, in general, sustainable design, you see a lot of projects and design and time spent on office and healthcare, in schools. It's pretty readily available. So why should retailers and retail centers care? This has been an industry that has typically been a little slower to pick up LEED certification or sustainable practices unless a local jurisdiction has made it mandatory or a state has. So why should retailers and retail centers care? Is a question that we generally ask ourselves. And we have been seeing this as not only as the primary business for Callison, this is the largest growing sector in sustainable design. We're seeing the most increase in LEED certifications and registrations, as well as a lot more data and study has been done and analysis on why retailers should care about this. I'm sure you've all heard about the Walmart study that was done in 2004 where the daylight, the area that had some daylight actually had 40% increased sales. And that sort of got everybody's attention as the first big indicator as to why a retailer would want to do this and why a retail center would want to do this. And that's really where the presentation is geared. We're going to talk about what's happening in the market, what's happening with millennials, as well as what we're seeing with what strategies are being most effectively used, and go through some of those. So one of the first things, there's a second study that just came out in 2014 that was done by Morgan Stanley that you may have seen that said 83% of millennials will actually choose a job that pays less if they believe in the social or environmental stance that the company takes. So that's, in different terms, and you may or may not have heard about that one, but it's one that's gotten a lot of buzz recently because, one, it's recent, two, it's about the millennials, as we're all going to have to, not have to, but it's a generation that we want to design for and make products for, and as a retail design firm, we need to keep that generation segment in mind. So they are 3 times more likely to seek employment with a company based on its stance of social and environmental issues. This study also found that they are 2 times more likely to purchase from a brand because of the company's social and environmental impact. So that's a big one. They are paying attention. They are looking for data and information that is real, that is truthful, that is transparent, and helps them make their purchase choices and how they choose and where they choose to buy from. They are also 2 times more likely to check a product's packaging to ensure the sustainability. So this is the age of Google and the internet. All of the information is available there. Everyone has a smartphone. Not everyone. Many people have a smartphone, that they carry around with them everywhere. So if they want to know about what 7th generation's policy is on a certain cleaning product, they can look it up. Even better if it's written on the box itself. As they're looking into clothing choices and homeware choices, they are paying attention to how it is produced, what the actual company does, how the company does it. So this is a big answer to the why. Why should we care? Because the next big generation that's coming up, this is all about the sharing generation. This is about feeling good about products, and companies need to be transparent. And the Morgan Stanley study specifically was talking about how they're purchasing and what they're looking at, but that also translates to how the stores are being designed. How does that brand fully embrace their sustainability or environmental impact message? So more and more we're seeing retailers who are focusing on their CSR reports or their corporate social responsibility. We're helping a lot more clients develop their projects to reduce their carbon footprint, or as we're talking to them, what's important to them. They've been looking at where the materials are coming from, what are the work practices there, how can they talk about those, what is the carbon offset and generation policy and practices of a brand, and how can they convey that so that as people are out looking to buy things, which we all need things as in our daily lives, how can they convey that information in the most transparent way? And how can the buildings and the built environment help them achieve that? And the CSR report is one of those ways, or a sustainability report. You may see it both ways. Lego has a very robust sustainability report, as an example. While there are other companies that may not be so forward or outward-facing on their CSR report, but internally they have a lot of internal metrics that they want to hit. So some of this is, you want to be the brand that millennials are interested in, but it's also about saving dollars. We're going to talk about that as well. So as we've been helping different brands translate their brand policies into built space, how we've been successful thus far is we really get into what the brand is and what's important to them. We were working with a high-end kitchen manufacturer, and we figured that water and energy would be important because that's where their products are Energy Star rated, and they were working on water sense certification. But in talking to them about what really matters to them, they were a New Zealand-based company, and forests are very important to them. And so one of the projects that we were working with them on, we actually suggested doing 100% FSC wood, so that every piece of wood that was brought into their space was FSC certified or reclaimed wood, that there were no unregulated virgin forest being cut down throughout the project. And that was something that was very important to them, so that became a a strategy that we employed throughout the job. So that's just an example, but really honing in on what is important to them, and then how can you translate that into the sustainable design and strategies. Another one that we've worked with, they are all about the outdoors, and they are really concerned with material usage and saving and preserving that outdoor experience. And we worked with them to look for a building that was a historic building that they could reuse. And then while we were there, they were actually, we cut a hole in the floor, so we reused that wood as the stairs, and we found some old lithographs that were there, and we used them as artwork throughout the space. So we really tried to reduce the amount of waste coming out of the store, as well as showcasing it as something that was beautiful and that you can really get in touch with, and is tactile and has that that feel of being there for a long time. So what we really try to do is, after we understand the brand and talk to the retailer specifically about what's important to them, we tie our sustainable design strategies back to that brand goal, and that's been a successful way to do it so far. In talking with retail centers, it's less about their sustainable brand in some cases, but in others, if you're working with certain retail clients, retail center owners, they do. They have CSR reports. They are looking at how much energy they're using, how much water they're using from a dollars and cents perspective, but also as if someone is choosing to shop somewhere and spend their time, why would they choose this center over that center? Center A versus Center B. And a lot of us in this design space are, the big thing is the 18-hour center, and how can we get shoppers to spend more time where they come for an outdoor play area, or they come because the plaza is really lush and wonderful and you can go have coffee and meet up with clients and spend some time, and also then shop. So in choosing those spaces and places to meet up, we're also seeing that sustainable design is playing into that, because people want to go to places that they feel good about, that they feel good in, first and foremost, and second, that they feel good about patronizing, spending their dollars in. So that's sort of the two pieces between retailers and retail centers on this one. And one way of looking at this, and we'll look at this a couple different ways. One is through LEED. LEED for Retail, they have, or LEED has developed a rating system that is, tailored to retail for new construction, as well as tenant interiors, or CI, commercial interiors. And you can see the numbers here. So 82% of retail owners are aware of LEED, and 61% of them have used it in the past or currently use it. We've got 12.6 billion gross square feet of projects registered and certified globally. There are 67,000 projects registered or certified globally as well. So there's some big impressive numbers there. New construction starts, 40% are using the 40% of the LEED for Retail projects are new construction. Existing buildings are 31, commercial interiors are 29, and you can see the gross square footage. It's over 515 million square feet of registered and certified projects using the LEED for Retail system. It is, as I had mentioned, their largest growing sector, and you can see as you do projects throughout the country, California, not a surprise with Cal Green. Texas, there's a lot going on in Texas with required reduction of energy usage and LEED projects. It's also a very big place. And you can kind of see around. Florida is another one of the big ones, New York State, and then we go down from there. So it's something that we're seeing a lot in the coastal, on the coast, and even in the interior of the country. And as we work with brands, or retailers who are doing projects in California or other, and we're going through the mandatory regulatory process of Cal Green, people are saying, well, if I'm already doing Cal Green, how close am I to getting a LEED certification? And then once we go through that process, once with a client, they tend to say, okay, well, I don't want to carry 2 different prototypes, so how do I make this work in other places? And so we're helping them take that brand through the LEED process and into a more sustainable project design. So we're seeing it in both directions. And then we're also, other retailers that we had been working with for a while are taking their businesses globally, and we are helping them with that as well. So our clients that we've been working with in the States have now said, you know, we want to expand out to China, or we want to expand out to India. How can we do that? And so Callison, as a design firm, is able to take their brand strategy and project build out in a global fashion, but they are also taking with them their LEED certification. We actually do quite a bit of work in India with India-based clients that have no work in the States necessarily, but they still want to go for LEED and use the rating system that's been developed in India. So we're seeing clients that we're helping go global, and we're seeing global clients still want to pursue the LEED rating system. So in retail and retail centers, we're seeing a lot of growth in general in this market. One thing that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on are what are the actual strategies, or in this case, the top 10 credits, as LEED has said. And these 2 slides came from a LEED in Motion report that was specific on retail. And I think I had it cited on the first page. So you can always go and reference those documents. So one thing, as we've been working, or what LEED has found and that Callison has found similarly in concert, is projects that tend to go for LEED for retail projects tend to be in the more urban and dense areas. So 100% of LEED for retail projects have achieved the Sustainable Sites credit that is about alternative transportation. So reducing the parking count, being near bus or rail, being in a denser downtown. Those are all of the retail projects that LEED has done, and I would say the same for Callison. We're able to achieve at least one of those points. And so that's been a big indicator in helping retailers decide where they want to go, what their leasing strategy is, and how to integrate that if they want to go for LEED. The other one is the outdoor air delivery monitoring. That's this guy, which is one that you're increasing the outdoor air so that people feel like the air is better and they stay longer, and you get rid of the CO2 faster and sort of tailor your MEP. Same and equal with that is the energy and atmosphere credit that optimizes energy. And I would say the thing that we notice most is we've really been working with our lighting designers. So Callison has some lighting design in-house. We work with out-of-house designers as well. But the lighting design is really something that LEDs have come a long way. And we're able to provide the same quality of light, quantity of light, and experience of light, but using a dramatically less amount of energy. And LEED is finding the same thing. The other thing, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in the next slide, but the materials and resources credit for recycled content is a big one. As we work with brands as one-offs or as a program rollout projects, we're really looking at the materials that we're putting into our spaces, and recycled content is one that has really caught up with the market, and we see in almost all of our projects, and LEED is finding the same thing. So that's encouraging. Then we go through thermal comfort design. That's this environmental quality one, 95% for are seeing that, where that's working with your MEP to design to ASHRAE 55, which basically looks at an enhanced level of comfort through humidity, heat, the amount of air exchanges that are going on, whether or not you can feel a breeze, all those things that make us feel more comfortable. And having that in mind when we are designing the space because people notice that. If you're comfortable, I mean, you know, the same thing happens in your office. Everybody gets, you know, if you had an actual breeze coming across your face, you are a little bit more apt to stay and concentrated on your work. But if you're in a stuffy environment where the air feels like it's not moving, the CO2 is present, you know, it gets to be a little tough to focus. So retailers are finding that for their employees as well as their clients and customers. In both of those instances, it's a big driver. Equal with that is water efficiency. This is one that with EPA's water sense, we have found it to be a lot easier to accomplish. And if you have any sort of bathroom pantry or other, you can use water sense fixtures. You can put aerators on faucets. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do to help reduce that water consumption, bring it down. And the credit starts at a 30% reduction. So many of our projects, I won't say all, but many of our projects have at least a 30% water reduction. And so we're helping clients understand what that means. I'll go a little bit quickly just so that we have time for questions. But sustainable sites, not developing on a greenfield site, that's a big one. And many of the projects are able to achieve that. We are seeing a lot more renovations of retail centers than we are ground ups and new ones that might be on a greenfield site or in the wetland area, those sort of things. So this is one that we are seeing as well. The indoor environmental quality, this is during construction, and that's one that we have seen across. I think we have 100% of our projects achieve this one. This is where, and it's not just the projects in California where much of it is mandated. We are seeing, you know, ducts being delivered and covered, keeping absorptive materials up off the ground, really keeping a clean construction site, not contaminating products from one area to the next if you're sanding in an area but painting in another. It makes the construction schedule go more smoothly and the process go more smoothly. But it's also about when the store opens. In working with a lot of our luxury brands, they want day one to be functional and perfect. And I mean, every retailer does, but the amount spent on merchandise is directly related to how much the air quality to them matters. It's one that we see in a lot more of our luxury brand projects, caring about the indoor air quality than maybe some other product types that we work with, because it is all about, you know, you can't have any dust fall on the merchandise. The quality of the air and the space need to be fresh and delightful as you're walking into any of those brands. So we find that the air quality during construction and the outdoor air and the thermal comfort are really paramount for our retailers. Sustainable sites too, development and density. Again, that goes back to with the alternative transportation. Are you in an area where there's lots going on? I mean, that's fairly typical for retailers in general, that you want to be near other people and where the energy is. And the last one is the construction waste management. So 67% of projects are achieving at least the 50% reduction. And one of the other quotes from the report is that 77% of retail owners require their contractors to have green waste handling practices. So it's something that we're seeing that the retail owners are finding value in recycling and waste management. And a lot of places, if you recycle, it will offset your hauling receipts. So that's sort of the top 10. That's what we're seeing as the biggest strategies that are hitting home. A lot of them are about energy, or about water, indoor air quality, and those are measurable reductions, so that helps them on their bills. And you can also see the increase in sales volume, which is interesting as well with the air quality. And it's everything from construction through design into installation. And opening. So it's really been very interesting. A little bit on the retail center side, since I have spoken a lot about the retailer side. There's a report that was done by McGraw-Hill Construction just in 2013, and it projects through to 2015. It happens to be on retail and hospitality, so you'll see hotel and retail in these numbers. But what are the top benefits of building green? So as we talk to our retail centers clients, things that are most important to them, what are their annual operating costs? There's an 8% on average decrease across retail centers. That's significant when you're talking about, you know, hundreds of thousands of square feet of stuff, and that is directly tied to their energy usage. There's a 15% average reduction of energy usage. There's also, which is one that doesn't get talked about as much, the asset value actually increases by about 7%, and building ROI is actually increasing by about 8%. So those are real numbers that talking to retail center owners as to why they would want to talk about or build a project that is green. Here's why. And the most important aspects that we're talking to them about, improving their energy efficiency, which obviously relates directly back to energy use here, increased recycling, that is something that's been very important to retailers as well as retail centers, reduced water consumption, and this use of environmentally friendly products. So that's you know, recycled content, are they regional, are they reclaimed, are they low VOC, all of those kind of things. And one thing that was interesting on that is that rapidly renewable is also a product category for environmentally preferred products, but Callison hasn't had a project actually achieve that using the retail rating system, at least not yet. That's been a little bit harder of a sell, but not even a sell, but incorporating into the design. Reclaimed, certainly, but rapidly renewable has been a little bit, has been a longer lead for us. Same with increased renewable on-site energy generation. We've seen a lot in the way of green power offsets, but not necessarily generation on-site. But the McGraw-Hill study that actually worked with owners, retailers, and construction management groups and put out a big survey, and then this is from that report, is actually seeing a lot more about the increased renewable on-site generation. So that's been encouraging, and something as we talk to clients about, we're starting to incorporate a little bit more. So that's great. So I've talked a little bit about what Callison has found most and least. Some of the, I forgot one thing, sorry. Back on this slide. We are seeing that 41% of retail owners have indicated that their customers place a moderate to high value on being able to shop in a green building, and that 2/3 of retail owners are actually regard lowering their operating costs and increasing their NOI as their most important factor in deciding whether or not to do green projects. So that's that's interesting, that they're not doing it necessarily to save the planet. They're doing it to save money and to raise the value of their asset class. They see it as something that is a differentiator right now, which is great. Because as it becomes a differentiator, then that's when you see what's happening in office right now, where you don't have to be in a LEED building or have LEED standards, because people don't necessarily want to work in a building that isn't LEED certified or follow some green building practices. So retail is starting on that process, which is really encouraging. And 52% of retail owners expect that more than half of their building projects will be green in the next 2 years. So that was another stat that was sort of showing the turning tide of where it may have been, oh no, we don't do that, we're in retail. We're really starting to see the market shift, which has been great. So I already talked a little bit about what Callison's seeing. The other thing that we're seeing that LEED hadn't necessarily touched on was the tenant design and construction guidelines. And as you're a retail owner or as a retailer that's going into a green center, we actually are developing manuals and tenant design criteria manuals that we do typically, and adding in green language. We've worked with a major mall developer on an energy modeling study that basically they decided, you know, if your storefront was going to get blasted with sun, then shading was mandatory. If it was a medium amount, then you had to at least do a film or shading or had some sort of practice that would help reduce that energy consumption because of the solar heat gain. And then if you were a north-facing window in this particular climate, there was really no need for shading, so you didn't have to provide that in your storefront design. And they actually wrote that into their tenant criteria manual. From the energy study that we had done for them. So we are working with a lot of clients to do that in different capacities. And then to counterbalance that, one thing that we're not seeing very much is the building reuse in retail. Whether that's, you know, walls, floors, roofs, non-structural elements, any of those. That's the one credit that we haven't worked with any client thus far, because usually as a retailer, as you know, you go in, you get the space, and then you put your design into it. So those are sort of the most and least used strategies from us. Here are some of the clients that we've been working with in a variety of capacities, everything from master planning to ground up to reusing a whole building, to interior fit outs, into, you know, we go all the way down into individual design of a specific store window or a product display. So we've worked with a wide variety of clients, everything from a car manufacturer to an outdoor retailer. We've worked with large and small retail center groups. We've worked with hotels, we've worked with luxury brands, and we've worked with everybody kind of in between. So we hope that this was informative. If there are any questions, I would love to open it up for those. And we'll just pause a minute to see if there are some questions in the queue.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Amber. It looks like the first question that we have that came through is, what are the unique items that you're seeing in the luxury brand space?
Okay. So we've been working with luxury brands, and we've worked with retail luxury brands that deal with soft goods, apparel, home goods, appliances and equipment, car manufacturers. We've worked with a wide breadth of them, which has been very interesting. A lot of them don't necessarily want to put their LEED plaque giant in the front and say, hey, we're a LEED certified building, or that they want to wear on their sleeve that they've been working with green strategies and that they're rolling them out across their brand. But what we have seen them do is take what's important to them internally. So having, you know, the largest carbon generator, as they've started doing CSR reports and looking at what they need to report on for carbon emissions, how can we reduce that? How can we make our building use as little energy as possible, but also get that lighting effect, lighting scenes that actually throughout the day take individual clients, you know, the circadian rhythm lighting, where it's a little bit bluer in the morning and a little bit warmer in the afternoon, so that it helps your body feel like you are outside. We're also seeing a lot of work. So the lighting design has really been tightened up, I would say, and targeted, and to change throughout the day as you know, is it an overcast day? Is it a bright sunny day? Is it raining? Is it snowing? So that the store feels a little bit more like it's outside. And I think that also, I had mentioned the indoor air quality that has been paramount. And it was probably the thing that surprised me most, that having clean air with no smell or scent or other, no hint even on day one, that it's just a very pleasant experience. The indoor air quality was absolutely important. But we're also seeing in the back of house spaces they're not, they're not just caring about their clients and the people who are spending money in their store, but they're really investing in their employees. They don't want the employee turnover. They want people to stay and be happy and work there and build those client relationships, and that helps them do their business better. So how can they make their employees actually feel better and experience work in a more enjoyable place? And we've been working with them a lot on the material selection. So as they're building out their casework, working with the millwork caseworker, the person who's providing the fixtures, to provide better materials. Low VOCs, there are a lot of people out there now with the chemical sensitivities, employees and clients for luxury brand retailers. And so we spend a lot of our time working with the mill workers to say, okay, here's the type of wood to use, here's the type of stains to use, here's the look that you want to achieve, so how can we do that with a different product? And helping them find those ways to achieve the design intent, but actually, and also achieve the sustainable design strategies as well.
Okay, that's great, Amber. The next question that I have is, are you seeing retailers use rating systems other than LEED?
We primarily are seeing LEED being used, especially since they tailored it for LEED for retail, for new construction. But we are also, there's a rating system in the EU that is called SKA, and that one has a retail focus as well. I haven't personally worked with that one, but our London office is starting to see some requests for that, and we have 2 people who are SKA certified practitioners over there. So we're seeing some of that. The other, let's see, BREEAM is also over there, but I've heard SKA is actually more used for retail because they've tailored it. But that's really the different LEED rating systems around the globe. There's one in India we've been using. Oh, excuse me. But LEED really is the standard. I know Green Globes is also out there. We have not used Green Globes on a project yet. And we are seeing some tailoring of Energy Star for retail centers. We're starting to see some of that, that they'll actually use the Energy Star rating for a property for the retail center, not necessarily an individual retailer. But that's really, it really is mostly LEED at this point.
Okay, and the next question then is, do you feel that the look needs to feel natural to convey the sustainability of finishes?
I think that's probably the most obvious way. If you see a piece of reclaimed wood versus a slick piece of polished wood, you would assume that the reclaimed wood is more sustainable. But I think where Callison has found success is that it's more about the quality of the entire space, that when someone walks in, they're not smelling a stain or a finish. They're not smelling the plaster that was put on the wall. They're not smelling the formaldehyde that's coming up from the wood. That it's a comfortable space, that the light is of a very high quality. It can also be in the details where they go to open up a door to go to a fitting room and the light turns on, as opposed to just being on all the time. When they go to use the restroom, that it's a low flow fixture, or it's a dual flush fixture. We actually do almost entirely dual flush fixtures now. So it's more in the details. There are some very obvious ways, if you have bamboo floor, or if you have sunflower cabinets, sunflower board cabinets, substrates, those sort of things. There are some very obvious things that definitely help, but I don't think it has to. There's more about the total quality of space, and in the details you show that you've been mindful.
Great. And the next question then is there any additional data that can be utilized to convince company owners that green building is the best approach to saving costs?
I would actually direct you to that McGraw-Hill study because it just came out. It was completed in 2013, so the data is only a year old, being that we're in 2015 right now, and it was using data from 2013, so it came out in 14. let me see if I can back up to it, and you can see here's the actual web address and the actual title, Green Retail and Hospitality, Capitalizing on Growth in the Green Building Investments. It's a very deep dive into actual dollar amounts, especially from that retail owner's perspective, retail center perspective. And it looks, I think, at 79 different retail center owner groups, everyone from big down to small, and it's really got a lot of information in there. I kind of breezed over it, figuring if you guys wanted a deeper dive, we could talk some about it, but if you want a very deep dive, it's probably best to go actually get that report because it is specific to retail, which is something that we haven't seen. There's been a lot of information about Office, but some of the highlights in that one, just to go over it, from the top strategies that have been employed at retail centers are occupancy and lighting sensors or an auto shutoff, LED lights, recycling and composting, building controls, as well as the airflow and indoor environmental quality improvements. And they're actually looking also at environmentally preferable purchasing products as well, and energy benchmarking. And those are all things that will help them understand how they're saving money, water, and building a better space for better tenants. So that would be my suggestion.
Great. And just to reiterate, we will be sending out a follow-up email with a copy of Amber's presentation and a recorded copy as well, so you'll have that available if you weren't able to catch any of that. So another question and maybe you did answer this a little bit, is how many C-store brands are doing sustainable strategies? And the second part to that is, are those strategies bringing revenue for their companies?
I missed the second or third word that you said. Could you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. How many C-stores brands are doing sustainable strategies? Are those strategies bringing revenue for their companies?
C's store?
C-store.
Sorry, I'm
oh, no worries. I'll email it to you, or I'll send it over to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm missing
no worries.
The word.
Are there resources that illustrate specific methods to achieve the top 10 design strategies?
So there are quite a few ways to help people achieve them. Callison has a tool that we use internally as well as externally. It's available to everyone. It's called the Matrix. Matrix by Callison. If you were to Google that, there's 84 different strategies on there, and it goes in depth into what is the strategy, a general idea of cost. Is this a cheap thing to do? Is this an expensive thing to do, or somewhere in the middle? So it'll help talk about you would target your strategies to achieve those top 10. So optimize energy, let's say. And we even have a button on the website that is the matrix for retail. So it'll gray out the strategies that really don't apply to retailers or retail centers. So that's where we start, and that's where I start in going to any place. There's another one called the DART, D-A-R-T. That's done by, it's performance-driven design. It's similar to the matrix, but it does function a little differently. That's another one that we use. And really, a lot of these strategies our MEP engineers are smart in general. I mean, they're good at their job for a reason. Work with them. Talk to them. I would say almost all of our projects, and definitely all of our sustainable strategies projects and lead projects, we have a kickoff charrette where even if it has to be by phone and it's not in person, everybody's on the phone and you say, okay, what are the goals of the client? That's probably the easiest way to achieve the top 10 credits, is to talk to your team and say, you know, the client's goals are these, this, and this, so how can we do this? If they really want to have a great indoor environmental air quality, what can we do? If they really want to crank down and save their energy, what can we do? What are the logistics of the existing, and then how can we improve that with different mechanical systems, especially if you're replacing all of the mechanical systems. That's a great opportunity. And the other is for the construction ones. We help our owners as we're going through the bidding process for who the GC is going to be. Is we ask about lead experience. We ask about their construction waste management practices. We ask them for sustainability statements. And the same with Callison getting asked as we're bidding on projects ourselves to be the designers. We're getting more and more questions about, what is your statement on this? What is your policy on that? What do you have a CSR report? Callison also just released our first sustainability report this year in April for Earth Month. So there are a lot of different resources out there to do it, but I'd say the biggest one is just to talk to your team, and if there's a lot of resistance, and then maybe they're not the right team members. But we are not seeing that mostly. We are mostly seeing team members that are very willing and excited to figure it out.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Amber. We really appreciate you enlightening us on this topic. And again, we will email out just a follow-up email with the slides for your download. And we just want to thank everyone again for joining us for Callison's Green is the New Black webinar today. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.